Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Ricky Thomas Gordon, and we're going to talk about what's in a name, okay? I hope you have already downloaded what we just started focusing on. This is the handout that I uploaded to the internet, and so this is going to be your assignment before the next class. But I wanted to explain it in more detail than what I could put on a single sheet of paper, okay? What's in a name? Okay, we have a little joke here. This man is at the hospital. They're about to name the baby, and he said, can his middle name be at, like Ricky English 2020 at gmail.com. Okay, people name their children for all sorts of reasons, and these days people will call their children almost anything. I remember a few years ago up in Chiba, a man went to the city hall, the shock show, to register the name of his baby, and the guy at the city hall looked at it and he said, no, I won't register this name. And the guy said, why not? That's the name I want to give this baby. And he said, you cannot name your baby Akuma. He said, I want to name him Akuma. The man at the shock show said, no, I won't register this name. And so they argued back and forth, and it made the newspapers. And finally, I think the man just named his son Aku. Okay, but your name is the first thing that your parents give you. After they give you life, this is kind of their first present to you. So we want to talk about that for a few minutes, and you're going to have to do some research about how you got your name. Okay? Now, the very first question or very first comment says Americans usually have three names. Okay? We have a surname, family name, last name. Those all mean the same thing. Okay, your myoji. Okay, look at my name. Okay, my name is Ricky Thomas Gordon. Okay, can you see this? Okay, Gordon is my family name. Okay, I inherit my family name, and so they don't have to make a choice about whose family name you get normally. Okay, but after that they have given names. Okay. Now, in America, most people have three names. We have what we call a first name, a middle name, and then the last name is your family name. Remember, if you're filling out a paper going into a country, it could say last name, family name, or surname. Those are all your myoji. Okay? Other things are your given name. Now, most Japanese people only have two names. You have the family name and then a name that they choose for you. Okay? Most Americans have three names, like Ricky Thomas Gordon. Now, I have a member of my family, one of my grandsons, he has four names. Okay? His name is Sky, Sora, Wind, Sweat. Okay, Sweat, S-W-E-A-T-T, this is his family name. Okay, but his mother and father wanted to give him a very unusual name. Okay, my second thing here is Americans choose the name for their child in many different ways. Okay, sometimes it's from a book of baby names. These days, you can just go on the internet and type in baby names, and you will get page after page of names that are popular, new names, old-fashioned names, whatever. People can be named after a member of their family. They can be named after a famous baseball player, soccer player, singer, musician, politician, whoever's on TV, somebody's favorite song, and so we get names many, many different ways. Okay, in my case, okay, Thomas, my middle name. My grandfather was named William Thomas Gordon. My father was named Sidney Thomas Gordon. And I was named Ricky Thomas Gordon. Okay? And so I was the chonan, my father was the chonan, and so all the firstborn sons got the middle name Thomas. Until I started having children, and then I didn't do that. Okay? Okay, so my middle name Thomas comes from grandfather, father to me. Okay? Now, my grandson, let me explain. Sky, Sora, Wind, Sweat. Okay? My son-in-law and daughter like the name Sky. and so they named him Sky. But he was born in Tokyo, so they wanted to give him a Japanese name, and Sora was a good name. It's kind of like Sky, Sky, Sora, Sora, okay? And so they thought that would be a really good name to always identify, you know, you were born in Japan. Now, Win is interesting because my son-in-law and daughter both went to the same university, and their favorite teachers, they had two favorite teachers. One was the ballet teacher, one was a philosophy teacher, and they both had the last name Win. Now, they were not married to each other, but Professor Win and the ballet teacher, Miss Win, okay? And so they said, well, we both loved, that was our favorite teacher, so we're going to put Win in Sky's name. And so Sky got 4 names: Sky, Sora, Win, Sweat. And so that's kind of unusual, okay? But people always have a reason why they name somebody a certain name. I know children here named after a popular baseball player. Years ago, when Ichiro Suzuki first went to America to play baseball, there are a lot of little boys named Ichiro. There are a lot of little boys in America named John, after John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, named after John Lennon of the Beatles. Okay, John Glenn, America's first astronaut to circle the globe. John happens to be the most common name for a boy in English, whereas Elizabeth is the most common name for a girl in English. We have Queen Elizabeth, still Queen of England. Okay, now let's talk a bit about, I said, many times we have short forms of names, okay? You may be given a name, but then people don't call you that name, okay? So we're going to erase this and talk about, I said, if you could guess what these are. Goodness, that doesn't erase with anything. Okay, don't knock my whiteboard over. Okay, now Richard, Edward, Elizabeth, Catherine, Michael, these all have short forms, okay? If we were in class, I would have you tell me what the short forms were, but since you're not here, I'm going to go ahead and fill it in for you, okay? Richard can be called Ricky, or Rick, or Rich, or Richie, or Dick. Okay, Richard, we can see Rich, Richie, Rick, Ricky. Now, Dick, I have no idea why, but Dick is considered a short form of Richard. We had a president years ago called Richard Milhous Nixon. Okay, his friends called him Dick Nixon. His enemies called him Tricky Dick. And they said, you can't trust him. Turned out, probably they were right. Okay, but his legal name was Richard Milhous Nixon, but his wife and his friends called him Dick. Okay, Edward. Now, some of these names you can see. You got Ed and Ward, so you got Ed or Eddie and Ward. Now, if you spell it differently, E-D-D-Y, I think, is a boy's name, but E-D-D-I-E is a girl's name, I believe. And so Edward can be Ed, Eddie, Ward. Elizabeth, okay, the most common name for a girl in English. Okay, we got Eliza, Liza. If you spell, you can also spell it with an S. So you got Liz or Lisa. You got Beth. Let's see. Eliza, Liza, Liz, Lisa, Beth. Okay? Or actually I put Bethy up here, or Bethy. Okay? And so you get many different forms of this. Okay, Catherine can be spelled with a C or a K, but the short form would be Kathy or Kate. Or it can also be K-A-T-H-Y or K-A-T-E or Katie. Katie, okay? Michael. Okay, Michael, most common would be Mike. In Russian, I believe it's Mikhail. Okay, so Mike, Mikey, or most famous mouse in the world, Mickey Mouse is a Mickey, M-I-C-K-E-Y, is a form of Michael. And so we get short forms. Mickey Mouse is what, 80 years old or something? Maybe we should start calling him Michael Mouse. It sounds like a more mature Oji-chan. But we have many short forms of names, okay? And people get them for many different reasons, okay? We talked about the meaning of names. I just showed you this. Now, it's almost impossible to guess the meaning of a name. In Japanese, when you're choosing a name, you've got to think about the kanji and the meaning of the kanji and all those kind of things. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And I can't remember all the meanings of these names, so let's just go here with Richard means powerful ruler or bold or brave. Probably goes back to the King of England. He was called Richard the Lionhearted. Okay, Elizabeth. I believe Elizabeth is the next one here. Elizabeth means consecrated to God or set apart to God, or it can mean promise. Okay, that's a good meaning, promise. Okay, Sarah here. Sarah comes from the Hebrew, from the Old Testament part of the Bible, and Sarah means princess. Princess, okay? Christopher. Okay, Christopher, you see the word Christ in his name, and so it means Christ bringer, or one who brings Christ. Okay, Catherine, last one. Catherine means pure. Okay, there's a kanji for Junko that means pure, pure child. Okay, and so Catherine means pure. So when Americans are choosing names for their children, they often want to think about the meaning of the name, just like you do when you're choosing the name for a child in Japanese. Although I think it's much harder to choose the kanji for a child in Japanese because, well, one thing, you've got to think about how many strokes. You know, people don't want unlucky strokes, a number of strokes in the name. You think about this kanji with this kanji, do they fit together well? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Will it match with the family name, or is it going to cause a problem with the family name? Okay, and so let's talk about your assignment, specifically what you have to do for next week. Okay, we said first, I want you to write the kanji for your name, and then I want you to teach me what it means in English. Okay, so I want you to put your kanji on the paper and then say, this is my name and this is what it means. Now, this is your given name, not your family name. I don't want a Yamamoto or Suzuki or Sato. Okay, I want you to talk about the name your family gave you and what does it mean. Okay, if you have a hiragana name, well, anyway, you can tell me if you chose a kanji for your name, if you have hiragana, what would you like it to be? Okay. So anyway, we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So first of all, write down the kanji and say, this is what this means. Okay? Second, do you like your name? Some people really like their name, some people don't. Okay? Let me show you a name one of my students had years ago. Man, this is terrible. It just does not want to erase. Okay, hang in there. Okay, there we go. This is one of my students. It was a long time ago, and I remember it. Okay, her name was Okuyama Yuko. Myoji wa Okuyama, given name Yuko. She said her father named her this name as kind of his little joke to her. Okay? You can read it this way, Okuyama Yuko, or you can read it backwards, Okuyama Yuko. So she said, my name you can read forward or backwards. You get Okayama Yuko. So she liked her name because she thought it was really unique that her father would give her a name like this. I have some people who don't like their name because I know one person didn't like their name because they had 3 kanji in their given name, and they said, oh, it is so hard for me to learn to write it. Other people don't like their name because it's only 1 kanji. I had a girl, a friend of mine, who did not like her name because it was hiragana. She said, my mother was too lazy to pick out a kanji. She said she was just too lazy. She didn't care enough to pick out a kanji. And so I think her name was, I said Keiko. I think it was Keiko or something. Anyway, so when she turned 20, she picked out a kanji. She kept her name Keiko, but she picked out kanji for Keiko. And so she changed it from hiragana to kanji. So anyway, another girl, I remember she did not like her family name, her given name, because it was the name of her father's first girlfriend. And the mother, every time the mother called her name, the mother would have to remember that first girlfriend. So she thought, this is not a good name for me. Anyway, so this gets down to number 3. How did you get your name? Who named you? Did your parents, mother and father together, name you? Did your grandfather name you? Did they go to a temple and the priest picked out 3 good names and said, oh, this name's bad, don't use it, but these names are good? And so are you named after your father's favorite baseball player or your mother's favorite actress or actor, whatever? Okay, so how did you get your name? Now, you may have to call home and find out if you don't know. A lot of people don't know, and so some people do. One girl said, I hate my name because of the way I got my name. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, my father and mother were arguing. What are we going to name her? Finally, my father picked up the telephone book. He said, okay, and he put his finger down, and said, okay, her name is Junko. He put his finger on Junko out of the telephone book. And she said, there was no love in that. They were fighting. My name came from the telephone book. Okay? Other people just love their name because it's so special and so unique. A friend of mine, her family name is Suzuki. Now, Suzuki is an extremely common name in Japan. And so her mother thought, okay, we need to give her a very unusual first name. And so they named her Ako. Okay? Ako has a kanji, it means linen lake. Okay? Now, when Ako was young, she hated her name because every teacher would say Suzuki Mako. And she would have to raise her hand and say, no, that's Ako, because they had the alternate translation, alternate pronunciation. Now that she's older, she thinks that's a really good name. Say, wow, I have a very special name, Linen Lake. Most people don't know Ako, and so she thinks that's very special. When she was young, she didn't think it was so special. So sometimes we change how we feel about our name, okay? So you got your name in many different ways. Okay, now number 4, your 4th thing for your assignment is if you had to go to an English-speaking country and people could not pronounce your name, sometimes it's just easier to choose an English name. So choose an English name. What would you like your English name to be? Just to make it easier. I've had Chinese students, Vietnamese students, who said it was impossible for Japanese people to pronounce their Chinese or their Vietnamese name, so they just chose an easy Japanese name. Okay, so you choose an English name that you would like. Okay, now I do have here a few years ago what were the most popular English names and Japanese names for boys and girls. Okay, this was like about 10 years ago now. The most popular name for a boy was Jacob, and then Ethan, and then Michael, Jaden, William, Alexander, Noah, Daniel, Aiden, and Anthony. Those were the most popular names in 2010. Interesting to me, some of those names are very old-fashioned. And so, particularly like, some of these names are very old Bible names from the Christian Say Show. Like Jacob, Michael, Noah, and Daniel we would call those Christian names because they come from the Bible. Now, Jaden, I know why Jaden, okay? 10 years ago, there was a remake of The Karate Kid, and Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, was in it, and he was very, very popular right then. He was a really cute little boy, and so lots of people named their sons Jaden. So I'm sure that's where Jaden came from. Okay, the most popular name for girls 10 years ago was Isabella, Sophia, Emma, Olivia, Ava, Emily, Abigail, Madison, Chloe, and Mia. Okay, now I believe Isabella is Spanish. Sophia, we have Sophia University in Japan. That is actually the Greek name for wisdom, and so it's a good name. Emma, Olivia, Ava, Emily, these are kind of what I consider kind of old-fashioned names, but we go through cycles. What's popular now may not be popular in just a short time. Let me see. Hang on just a second. I'm going to step off camera and see. Okay. Okay, now this was 2010. Okay, 2018, this is just 2 years ago. Still, the most popular name for a girl was Sophia. Olivia, Emma, still there. Ava, Isabella, Aria. Okay. Riley, Amelia, Mia, Layla. Okay. And Layla got into the top 10. Boys' most popular name just a few years ago was Jackson, Liam, Noah is still there, Aiden, Caden, Grayson, Lucas, Mason, Oliver, and Elijah. Elijah is a very old name from the Bible. So anyway, so I want you to, this is your homework. I want you to go through this, write it down, submit it to me. First thing, write down your kanji, and then tell me what it means, like Lennon Lake. Okay? I remember one of the first times I ever did this in class. I had a man, this was a Daigakuin class. He said, "My name is Tetsuya." He says, "Tetsu is steel, comes for steel. Ya is man." He said, "Man of steel, I am Superman." So I've never forgotten Tetsuya. He said, "I am Superman. My parents wanted me to be strong," so he loved his name. Okay, so you write down your kanji, tell me what it means, okay? And do you like your name? And explain to me why you like it or why you don't like it, okay? Number 3, how did you get your name? Who named you? Explain, find out some information. You've got about a week to call or write or find out from somebody in your family who named you and why did they name you that, okay? And then number 4, if you choose an English name for yourself, what will it be? Now, sometimes that's the easy thing. Sometimes it's not, okay? I remember one girl, her name was Megumi, okay? Megumi in English equals grace. Okay, so I thought, Megumi, I thought she would choose Grace for her English name, but she didn't. She chose Jessica. So I said, why in the world did you choose Jessica? I mean, Megumi, you could even go Meg. Meg is an English name. She said, Jessica was my first foreign friend. She said, when I was in junior high school, Jessica was an exchange student from Australia. And she said, we've always written each other. And Megumi's email address is jessica0825@yahoo.com, something like that. And so she used Jessica in her email address, and that would be her chosen name. Okay? Good. I hope you do well on this. Give me some information. First, give me a kanji lesson. And then explain about how you got your name and what English name you would like. Thank you, and hope to see you in class.